Currently, I've just turned 39 years old. Back when I was 18, I met my ex, Marisol. During that period, I was involved with the Latin Kings gang. I had been a member since I was 13 and constantly found myself in and out of trouble. Marisol, on the other hand, was a devout churchgoer. My grandmother would drag me to Sunday Mass, and when I first laid eyes on her, it felt like love at first sight. I asked my cousin, who happened to be friends with her, to introduce us. But he declined. He didn't want me to get involved with her, fearing that I might corrupt her. Have you ever met someone who inspired you to become a better person just to be with them? She was that person. Upon discovering that she attended church almost every day, I started hanging around the church steps and struck up conversations with her. I would escort her to and from church. She made me feel like I had value. Eventually, we started dating and it felt wonderful. For a year and a half, I distanced myself from the gang life, earned my GED, became a regular church attendee, and contemplated the future. But then, I got unwittingly pulled back in. While at a store, I encountered someone I had a history of conflicts with. They were trash-talking, and I tried my best to ignore it, I swear. I let them talk and walked away, but they ended up stabbing me in the shoulder and I lost control. I beat them up. I got arrested and suddenly, it was as though all my efforts to improve my life had gone to waste. Marisol was furious with me. My grandmother kept bringing up my past mistakes, and my cousin insisted he knew I wouldn't change. Fortunately, my public defender recognized my sincere efforts to turn my life around and, by the grace of God, managed to get me released after a month in lockup. Despite being angry with me, Marisol visited me almost daily. A month after my release, I learned that I was going to be a father, and I didn't want my child to have a dad who was either dead or in jail. We decided to elope, and I enrolled in a trade school to become a mechanic. I worked tirelessly for the sake of my future family. When Luna was born, it was one of the most challenging days of my life. Marisol went into shock, leading to a double hysterectomy. She remained in the hospital for months, and Luna became my world. I was determined to give her the best life possible and offer her the world. When Marisol was finally released, I promised her that our daughter would have a far better life than ours. And for many years, I kept that promise. I managed to save enough money to move us to the suburbs and become homeowners. Can you believe I even became a Girl Scout leader? I ensured that Luna attended a private school, taught her self-defense, and made every effort to be the perfect husband. I never knew my parents and lacked a positive male role model in my life, so my only reference for what a healthy relationship looked like was from TV dads. I emulated their behavior and the marriages I saw on television. Over the years, I established my own garage, my cousin became a pastor, my grandmother remained a pain, and my relationship with my wife grew stronger. I made sure to maintain the physical shape I had developed in prison, but Luna started to hate me when she turned 13. She resisted my hugs, rolled her eyes when I expressed my love, and ignored me when I asked about her school day. It was painful, and Marisol noticed it. She explained that Luna was going through typical teenage behavior and advised me to be patient. She assured me that Luna would come around. This continued for 2 years. So, when it was time for her quinceañera, I went all out. I fulfilled her every wish, but she remained disrespectful. I felt like my old self was about to surface to put her in her place, but instead, I turned to my cousin. I shared my frustration and doubts about being a good father, and he advised me to give her space. He also said a prayer for me. I wanted a slideshow for the father-daughter dance, so I gathered many old pictures of us together. However, I realized that we didn't have any recent pictures because she didn't want to take any. The last time we were photographed together was on her 13th birthday, and those pictures were on her broken tablet. I took the tablet to a repair shop, no matter the cost, as I needed it fixed. After a day and $300, the technician managed to repair it. I knew her passcode, but had never invaded her privacy. I only wanted those pictures. When I opened the tablet's gallery, there they were. Pictures of my little girl, smiling and happy to be with me. I felt elated. Then, the instant messages between my daughter and my wife appeared. It was a lengthy conversation where Luna expressed her reluctance to dance with me. While it hurt, my wife assured her it was just teenage behavior. However, Luna's words in the chat cut me deeply. She asked why she had to do the father-daughter dance with me when I wasn't her father. My heart seemed to stop. I felt dizzy, my mouth went dry, and I needed to sit down. My wife replied that I had raised Luna, loved her, and that made me her father. Luna, however, insisted that my cousin was her father and couldn't wait until she turned 18 to tell me the truth and go live with her real dad. She expressed her hatred for me and thanked God that I wasn't her father. Marisol responded angrily, regretting that my cousin had revealed the truth to Luna 2 years ago. As they argued, my anger grew. My wife had lied to me for 15 years. My cousin, the same person I had confided in about Luna and my fears of being a bad father, had deceived me by allowing me to raise his child. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and grief. I wanted to scream, cry, and disappear all at the same time, if that makes any sense. I found myself in a dark place, and to prevent myself from doing anything foolish, I told Marisol that I needed to focus on work so I could pay for Luna's quinceañera. Instead, I drove to Manhattan and met my old public defender, who was no longer a low-level attorney. He now had an upscale firm in Midtown East. I was surprised that he remembered me, but I had been his first case as a public defender. I confided everything to him, gave him the tablet, and when he turned it on, the messages kept pouring in. This time, Luna was communicating with my cousin, her biological father, who encouraged her to give me a chance. She mentioned how both of us had been there for her, and she even called him Papi multiple times during their conversation. He replied, calling her his little girl. We discussed our options, and he repeatedly asked what I wanted to do. I told him I wanted to go all out and take extreme measures. I aimed to poison the well, and he confirmed my decision multiple times. I also mentioned that everything needed to be filed before the quinceañera in 2 weeks. We spent the next 12 hours outlining what needed to be done, and I followed his instructions meticulously. I secretly put my business up for sale, informed the private school that I wouldn't be paying for the next year, closed college accounts, and prepared to list my house for sale online. I adhered to his advice flawlessly, except for one thing. The day of the quinceañera arrived. It went smoothly. The whole family was in attendance, and Luna was joyful, having a great time. Marisol kept checking on my well-being, and I lied to her. It was challenging to lie to her. I had never lied to her from the moment we met. Over those 2 weeks, every time I kissed her, held her, made love to her, it was difficult not to express my frustration, not to resent her. She knowingly allowed me to raise another man's child, and not just any man, but my cousin, a person I considered my brother, the godfather of my child, the best man at our elopement, and my confidant. So, needless to say, it was incredibly challenging to contain my anger. When it was time for the father-daughter dance, I called Luna to the center of the stage. She seemed annoyed, but complied. The music began playing, and she smiled. Seeing her smile tore me apart. I had longed to see that smile again for years, and now I didn't want it. As we danced, I had the slideshow playing, featuring pictures of the two of us. Towards the end of the song, I displayed screenshots of her text messages with her mother and biological father. Predictably, this didn't go over well. Marisol looked as if she had seen a ghost. Luna stared at the large screen, and my cousin gazed at me with fear. Marisol rushed to me, desperately trying to explain, but I informed her that I had filed for divorce, and she could explain it in court. She grabbed my arm, pleading with me, but I pulled away. I told Luna that I had worked tirelessly to provide her with the world, but she didn't deserve it. I began to walk away, but not before telling my cousin that I would knock him out every time I saw him. Then I actually knocked him out. The aftermath was harsh. Marisol and Luna stayed at my grandmother's apartment. Her family was shocked and disgusted with her, wanting nothing to do with her. Her father even offered an apology to me, though I wasn't sure why. He had never liked me, despite the positive changes I had made in my life. He had despised me before, but now I was the perfect husband and father. Just a few days earlier, I was a former piece of crap. My grandmother had the audacity to mention the story of Abraham and how he had returned from battle 3 years later, finding his wife with a 1-year-old child. He had raised the child as his own. She suggested that I should be like Abraham. In response, I told her to leave my house. Marisol arrived a few days later, tears welling up as soon as she laid eyes on me. She claimed that what had happened was an accident. When I was arrested, she was furious with me, and my cousin was there to console her. And one thing led to another, and they had a romantic encounter. It occurred only once, and she had been faithful to me ever since. She even offered to take a lie detector test to prove her sincerity. So I asked her how long she had known that Luna wasn't my biological child, and her tearful gaze made it clear that she had known from day one. I asked her to leave. She suggested counseling, saying I was overreacting and that we could work it out. She believed that I am Luna's father despite the incident, and my temper got the best of me. I must have yelled, "Get over it!" at least a dozen times at the top of my lungs while gathering her belongings and tossing them out the door. I called her a lying 403 and told her I never wanted to see her face again. I informed her that the life I had built was no longer hers before physically pushing her out the door. A couple of weeks went by and she continued to blow up my phone. Luna never attempted to reach out to me. Marisol was shocked when she found out I had sold my business. She was even more surprised when she discovered I was hosting an open house. She stormed in, screaming at the viewers to leave her house and begging me to seek help. She claimed I was ruining our marriage and had no right to sell our home, where we had raised our child. I told her that this house was filled with deception, a place where I had raised another man's child. When I sold it, I would give her half and ordered her to leave before I called the police. It was a bluff. All she needed to do was play the victim, and I would have been arrested. But she complied. Shortly afterward, my cousin came to talk to me, and I punched him, dragged him outside, and closed the door. I declined mediation. While Marisol wanted to reconcile, I was determined to proceed with a divorce. My attorney filed for a fast-track divorce, and within 3 months, we found ourselves at the Nassau County Courthouse. During this time, I barely interacted with anyone. I had heard horror stories about the court system, particularly during divorce proceedings, but I didn't face that. I had a female judge who proved to be very fair. My attorney handled everything adeptly. Initially, Marisol's lawyer attempted to delve into my past when I was involved with a gang, as if my history was grounds for being a terrible husband and father. However, my attorney promptly shut down that line of questioning, and the judge reprimanded Marisol's attorney for trying to shame someone who had turned their life around. My attorney presented all the evidence and proposed a lump sum alimony payment, contingent on the pending sales of the house and the business. Initially, Marisol kept asking me to reconsider, but I ignored her. When she finally realized that I wouldn't change my stance, she reluctantly agreed. However, the real shock came when it came to child support. My attorney presented all of the text messages from Luna's conversations with Marisol, showing that not only did Luna know I wasn't her biological father, but she couldn't wait to be with her real father, expressing relief that she no longer had to live a lie. This revelation caught Marisol completely off guard. Then my attorney filed a motion to have my name removed from Luna's birth certificate, eliminate my last name association, and relieve me of any child support responsibilities, since all parties agreed that my cousin was her biological father. Marisol was taken aback by this turn of events. She yelled at me, pleading with me not to do this to Luna, emphasizing that I was her father because I had raised her. As pitiful as it may sound right now, if Luna hadn't acted that way toward me, if she hadn't made those statements, I might have agreed. There were moments when I wanted to reach out and try to salvage the situation, but then I would glimpse at Luna's ongoing text messages to her friends, her real father and mother, refocusing my determination. To this day, I don't know what hurts the most: being deceived by a woman I thought was the love of my life, or having a child I tried to provide a better life for, to give her the world, cast me aside like trash. The judge remained silent for a long while, carefully reading through page after page of the text messages. In the end, she concurred. I was not financially responsible for Luna, and my name could be legally removed. Additionally, my attorney filed a motion for the courts to pursue my cousin for child support and initiated a civil lawsuit against my cousin for all the money I had spent on raising Luna, covering expenses such as private schools, dance classes, Girl Scouts, horseback lessons, everything I had ever invested in that child. After my attorney explained to the judge that my cousin had engaged in fraudulent behavior by knowingly allowing me to raise his daughter without offering any financial support or assistance, it was a long shot, but the judge surprisingly agreed. I didn't bother glancing at Marisol when the judge delivered her decision. I paid no attention to her words as I walked out of the courthouse. Her cries and explanations didn't affect me anymore. A few weeks later, my ex called me, astonished that I had ceased making payments for Luna's private school and extracurricular activities. I advised her to contact her baby's father before ending the call. Even Luna reached out to me, the first time since this entire ordeal, and she was in tears, expressing her fear about having to attend public school in their old neighborhood. She longed for us to be a family again. I responded by instructing her to turn to her real father, the one she truly wanted. and ask him for guidance. I raised my voice at her and reminded her that she had known the truth for years, and from her own words, she was grateful that a person like me wasn't her father, despite my transformation since the day I learned I was going to be a father. I hung up on her after that. I contemplated ending it all many times, even thought about seeking revenge on my cousin, but I made him compensate me. He had to pay me $500,000, and every cent was rightfully mine as my ex had agreed to the lump sum. I cared little that the money came from the church. I was in emotional pain. Shortly afterward, I left New York and settled in Idaho, as far away from New York as possible. I randomly selected a state and city and just departed. I established a new business, acquired a house, but for 2 years I struggled with trust issues. During that time, I sought therapy and anger management, and I visited rage rooms. It was a challenging period. Eventually, I found myself returning to church, and ironically, that's where I met my fiancée. Jocelyn is an amazing person. She had just turned 30 at the time, and we immediately connected. I shared with her the entire story of what had happened to me and explained my ongoing trust issues. She was understanding and supportive. A year later, she informed me that I was going to be a father and suggested we have a DNA test just to put my mind at ease. I had forgotten what it felt like to be happy, and when my son was born, I was overwhelmed with joy. I called my grandmother for the first time in years, and she cried. I told her about my son, and she insisted that I come to New York so she could meet her great-grandchild. She guilt-tripped me, mentioning that she was 90 years old and would like to see me one more time, and I agreed. We flew to New York, rented a car, and drove to Bushwick. The one thing I disliked about the neighborhood was that you could encounter just one person from your past, and the entire community would soon know that you had returned. My grandmother had the chance to see my son and meet my fiancé, and she made a snide comment in Spanish about her being white, to which I responded with polite agreement. I had plans to spend the week doing some tourist activities for once. It was Jocelyn's first time in the Big Apple, and I wanted to make it special. Unfortunately, nothing ever seems to go as planned. To my surprise, first my ex-wife shouted my name from downstairs. I glanced out the window and was taken aback by how much weight she had gained. My grandmother, speaking in Spanish, advised me to go talk to her, and Jocelyn concurred. I went downstairs, and for a minute, there was an awkward silence before the anger started surging back like a flood. Marisol commented that I looked good and said that she looked awful. She told me she missed me and claimed she hadn't been with another man since the divorce. But I simply ignored her. She even had the audacity to inform me that I was a grandfather, and I gave her a skeptical look. Apparently, Luna got together with a decent guy and became pregnant at 18. Her baby's father had joined the Marines to support them, and her real father wanted nothing to do with her, only providing child support while refusing to acknowledge her. He was no longer a pastor and was working at the Banco Popular 2 blocks away. Then she told me that Luna had named the baby after me, and I couldn't bear to look at her. Marisol wanted me to wait because Luna was on her way over, but I walked away instead. I went back to my grandmother's house and I didn't have to explain anything to Jocelyn. She simply understood. In the elevator, I recounted what had happened, and she reassured me, saying that everything would be all right. The expression on Marisol's face as we left the building was a mix of shock and jealousy, looking at my fiancée as if she were the other woman. Jocelyn didn't miss a beat and introduced my son to her, saying, "I would like you to meet his biological child." It was a painful twist of the knife, but she understood my anguish. Marisol continued to try and prevent me from leaving, telling me that Luna felt bad about what she had done, and Jocelyn wanted me to make amends. However, I was too angry. I got into the car, ignoring Marisol's pleas, and Jocelyn encouraged me to offer an olive branch. So I gave my number to Marisol so that Luna could call me, and then I drove away. At a red light, I saw my cousin by the cuchifrito stand, and I don't know what came over me. I got out of the car, approached him, and beat him up. Jocelyn was screaming, urging me to stop, and when our eyes met, I could see the fear in his expression. I spat on him and left. I'm back at home, juggling work, being a dad, and fulfilling my role as a good fiancé to a lovely woman. However, ever since my return, when I'm alone with my thoughts, the anger resurfaces. Luna did send me a text with a photo of her smiling with her son, along with an apology for what she did. Yet I can't tell if she's sorry for missing me, or if she's sorry because the man she wanted to be her father turned out to be different from her expectations. I'm feeling confused and apprehensive about reaching out to her. I want to move on from this painful past. My family was everything to me, and my daughter was my world. Even after all these years, it still hurts, and I'm still filled with anger, but I know I need to move forward. However, it's proving to be quite challenging. I want to reconnect with Luna, but I'm afraid. People are advising me to let her back into my life, but all I can think about are those text messages and the lies, the constant lies. My usual coping methods don't seem to be effective. Update. Luna tried calling me several times, and I looked at the phone. I wanted to answer, but I refrained, as those messages continued to linger in my mind. She left a voicemail, and her tone was cheerful. She briefly apologized for her actions, but to me, it didn't sound sincere, more passive. Maybe I'm overthinking it. She mentioned her son, her fiancé, and asked me to call her, making simple requests that somehow infuriated me. My grandmother and my fiancé are advising me to give her a chance. However, when I inquired whether Luna or Marisol ever asked about me during the 4 years I was away, my grandmother said Marisol did constantly, but not Luna. In my skewed perspective, I suspect that Luna wants me in her life to ensure her child is taken care of, or that she wants to take advantage of me, and these thoughts make me incredibly angry. Even Marisol has been trying to call me incessantly, and I'm already contemplating changing my phone number. So, I spent most of Father's Day in the gym, pounding the heavy bag, and I have an appointment today with an anger management group. Perhaps they can provide an outside perspective. If this ever gets published by the moderators, I would appreciate your opinion as well. In the meantime, I'm trying to figure this out on my own. I sent a brief email to Luna asking, "What do you want?" I wasn't anticipating her lengthy response. In her email, she began by offering profuse apologies for her past behavior. Luna explained that when she discovered I wasn't her father, she felt anger. She confronted her mother, who cried and promised not to reveal the truth to me. Feeling lost and confused, she began to communicate more with my cousin, her biological father. He shared details about my violent past, things I had kept hidden from her. This information fueled her anger, and as she spent more time with him, she distanced herself from me. Luna admitted she had occasional moments of feeling remorse, but her real father reinforced her negative sentiments about me. She went on to describe the day of her quinceañera. While we were dancing, she suddenly realized how foolish she had been acting. Luna recognized the depth of my love for her, and then her text messages appeared on the screen. In the days following the quinceañera, she was advised by my wife's family to give me space, so she refrained from contacting me. She observed her family falling apart due to her actions, and her inability to mend it weighed heavily on her. Luna stated she comprehended why I took the actions I did. Despite the content of her messages, she wanted to reach out. Her grandfather consistently assured her of my love and my role in raising her, and she believed him. During the divorce proceedings, her mother fell into a dark place, refusing to communicate with her, barely eating, and merely existing. Upon learning that my name had been removed from her birth certificate, she experienced a panic attack. Her mother informed her they would have to move back to Brooklyn, and when she inquired about her life and schooling, her mother responded, "That was the life your father gave you, and he's not your father anymore." Luna called me in desperation, but I responded with harsh words and hung up. She wept for days, attempting to reach out to my cousin, who mostly ignored her. She even visited the church where he told her to leave, referring to her as a mistake. Her mother continued to shun her, locking herself in her room, only emerging for bathroom and shower breaks. Luna pleaded with her grandfather to take her to see me, and when they traveled to Long Island, they discovered I had moved. Her grandfather assured her he would speak to my grandmother to determine my new location. According to Luna, the following 2 years were incredibly challenging. The entire neighborhood was aware of her and her mother's ordeal. Her supposed father avoided her at all costs and attempted to evade child support payments. Her grandfather had to threaten him to ensure he started providing support. Meanwhile, her mother maintained her silent treatment, accusing Luna of being ungrateful and blaming her for losing the love of her life. Her grandfather intervened, reminding her mother that her own infidelity was the true reason for the loss of her love, after which her mother retreated back to her room. Luna spent very little time at home, and it was during this period that she met the father of her child. He worked at the corner bodega, and they were the same age. After a few months of getting to know each other, one thing led to another, and she ended up pregnant. Her grandfather was furious, but when her boyfriend insisted that he would marry her, it helped calm things down. Luna saw her pregnancy as a blessing in disguise. Her mother began talking to her again and even started accompanying her to every checkup. Being a senior in high school while pregnant might have seemed cliché, but she managed to make it work. A month before the baby was due, she graduated and her boyfriend joined the Marines. He wanted to elope before leaving, but she wanted a proper wedding. Her boyfriend had no qualms about naming their son after me. Apparently, his own father was absent from his life, and the fact that he was a junior served as a reminder of a man who didn't want him. When she heard I was in town, she received a speeding ticket while rushing to my grandmother's apartment. She wanted to see me, apologize, introduce me to her son, and just be in my presence. Unfortunately, she was late and tears were shed. Her mother gave her my phone number, and while she wanted to call me immediately, the entire neighborhood was abuzz with the news of me confronting her father, so she decided to wait. Her mother was saddened to see that I had moved on and had a son of my own. Luna was happy to know she had a little brother, but her mother became even more despondent. I felt sorry for Marisol. After reading the email, I called Marisol and asked her if the claims were true, that she refused to talk to Luna for years and blamed her for our divorce. She confirmed it, and at first I yelled at her. However, when I heard her crying, I regained my composure. I told her to move on and find someone else, but she refused. She declared that I was her husband and would always be her husband. It tugged at my heartstrings. I then had my grandmother visit my cousin so I could have a conversation with him. The moment he heard my voice, he began crying and begged me for forgiveness. I asked him why he didn't step up as a father to Luna, why he poisoned her against me. He confessed it was envy. He had been in love with Marisol, and I took her from him. When I was arrested, he consoled her, manipulated her, and was barely there for her. She realized what she was doing and pushed him away, but the damage was done. When she learned she was pregnant, they both knew it was his child, although it was meant to be a secret. Marisol interpreted her double hysterectomy as God's punishment for her infidelity and deception. When Luna turned 13, he was intoxicated, overwhelmed by envy for the life I had. He wanted to ruin it, and he did. I told him that when we meet again in hell, I would be his eternal tormentor, and hung up on him. Jocelyn was there for me, assuring me that everything would be all right. Luna and I communicated via email. On the 4th, I had a conversation with her that lasted over an hour, during which she was in tears most of the time. I also spoke with her boyfriend, who asked for my permission to marry her. I found it funny, but honorable. My wedding is scheduled for next month, and Jocelyn wants me to invite Luna. Simultaneously, Luna wants me to give her away at her wedding in November. My future father-in-law had a heart-to-heart with me, expressing that he couldn't fully comprehend my situation but respected the path I had taken. He mentioned that it saved his daughter, gave him a wonderful grandson, and an impressive future son-in-law. I chuckled at that, but he advised me to let go of my anger and start forgiving, without ever forgetting. He's right. So we extended an invitation to Luna for my wedding and even offered to cover her plane ticket. Her boyfriend, or rather fiancé, said he'd work it off at my garage when they arrive, and I find that I'm rather fond of him. As for me giving her away at her wedding, I'm still unsure. I'll decide after the wedding takes place. I want to express my gratitude again for the advice and the supportive DMs. No one was rude or disrespectful, and your assistance has been invaluable. I'll provide an update if anything noteworthy happens, but for now, I need to focus on preparing for my wedding next month. Update. A lot has transpired in a very short time frame. I'd like to thank the many people who offered support in the DMs. Of course, there were some hate messages, but to those individuals, I can only say that what you would have done and what I did are products of different mindsets. Until you experience a similar situation, please refrain from telling me how I should have felt. As the wedding approached, I was already feeling quite tense. Jocelyn was the happiest I had ever seen her, and my in-laws were overwhelmed by the number of guests expected. It seemed like the entire town was attending. Meanwhile, I was an hour and a half away in Boise, waiting for Luna and her family at the airport. In the days leading up to her visit, we communicated extensively. She was mostly crying and apologizing while I did a lot of listening. When she couldn't speak anymore, I engaged in conversation with her down-to-earth fiancé. When their plane touched down, I was filled with fear, not at the prospect of seeing her again, but due to my own lingering anger. I was worried that I might lose control of my temper. The moment she spotted me at the terminal, she rushed toward me, crying. For a brief instant, I saw my 7-year-old daughter in my mind's eye, creating a strange mental image of a child. She ran to me, screaming, "Daddy!" And as soon as she hugged me, she began crying loudly, her wails drawing the attention of many onlookers. She kept repeating "sorry" over and over, pleading for my forgiveness, and I simply held her for over 15 minutes. She refused to let go, as if she feared I would vanish the moment she released me. Eventually, it took her fiancé and me to persuade her to do so. After she composed herself, her fiancé introduced himself properly, and they introduced me to their child. I won't deny it. I cried. My tears were not born of anger, but of emotion as I held this infant. Luna was also a spitting image of her mother when she was 19, which led me to reflect on Marisol. During the car ride home, we discussed her fiancé's boot camp, his plans for a military career, Luna's pursuit of an online accounting degree, and engaged in various catching-up conversations. When we reached my house, Jocelyn and her family had prepared a generous spread for them. Since we've been together, Jocelyn had learned to cook Spanish dishes, but in the week leading up to Luna's visit, she went a bit overboard. I understood that she wanted to make a positive impression. Luna and Jocelyn immediately hit it off. Every few minutes, Luna would approach me for a quick hug, then return to Jocelyn. Meanwhile, I held my son and my grandson. As Jocelyn introduced Luna to her family, I put the babies to bed and stepped onto the porch for some fresh air. Luna's fiancé stood at the edge of the yard, gazing at the roaming bisons. For a moment, I considered giving him the traditional dad talk, but I felt it wasn't my place. Instead, I asked him how he liked the view, and he was in awe. I understood that feeling well. Having spent most of my life in the city, wide open spaces are a marvel to behold. After a minute or two, he turned to me and shared something that has replayed in my mind ever since. "I've been with your daughter for 3 years and not a day goes by when she doesn't mention how much she misses you and regrets what she did." Luna's fiancé, whose name is Roberto, exhibited a maturity well beyond his 19 years, suggesting he had faced a challenging life to mature so quickly. I could relate to that experience. The next day, I had to head to the shop, and Luna eagerly hopped into the car with the baby. Even Roberto reassured her that it was fine and encouraged her to enjoy herself. Luna seemed on the brink of hyperventilating, so I assured her we'd work a half day, and I'd spend the rest of the day with her. This seemed to calm her down, and it slowly dawned on me just how deeply traumatized Luna was. During the drive, I asked Roberto about her condition, and he explained that she suffered from severe abandonment issues, constantly fearing he would leave her, despite his reassurances that he wouldn't. She tended to call him frequently, sometimes being a bit clingy, and initially she was afraid to be herself, dreading the possibility of their breakup. I knew I played a role in this, but he didn't hold me responsible. He told me he completely understood why I did what I did. Now, let me point out that Roberto was a lousy mechanic with no knowledge of cars, so I had him come to the shop to work off the cost of the plane tickets. We closed up shop early, and when we returned, Luna practically rushed towards me, appearing quite distressed. I informed her that I'd be back, and she went to her fiancé. Upon entering my house, Jocelyn told me that Luna needed to be reassured that everything would be okay, and that I wouldn't leave her again. I wasn't sure what to say, but Jocelyn took my hands and emphasized that Luna was hurting and needed her father. Over the next couple of days, I devoted all my time to reconnecting with Luna. I took her to my in-laws' ranch, showing her the bison, elks, and going on a hike. 2 days before the wedding, I apologized to her for leaving, for my behavior, for my actions. She didn't want to hear any of it. Luna insisted there was nothing for me to apologize for, and acknowledged that she was the reason everything fell apart. She believed it was her fault, but I had to stop her. I began to cry and told her that it wasn't her fault. I was the one who was angry and hurting, and despite what had happened, I should be the one apologizing. We both shed tears and embraced each other. Luna seemed to be in slightly better spirits, and on the day of my wedding, she appeared genuinely happy. At the last moment, Jocelyn made her a bridesmaid and Roberto a groomsman. The wedding was beautiful, and during the reception, I asked the DJ to play the song from Luna's quinceañera. I invited her to dance with me, and she cried throughout, clinging to me tightly as we danced. I hadn't felt this content in a long time. I allowed Luna and her fiancé to stay at my house, looking after her little brother while I went to Hawaii for my honeymoon. When we returned, Luna was elated, giving us warm hugs that felt wonderful. Roberto mentioned he was being deployed to Camp Dwyer in Afghanistan and asked if Luna could stay close to us. He intended to rent an apartment near our location, which I agreed to without hesitation. They went back to the city just the day before yesterday. As I mentioned, it's been quite eventful. Luna's wedding is scheduled for November, and Roberto's deployment is set for December. Roberto sent me an amount equivalent to a year's rent for a townhouse community located 3 miles from my home. However, Jocelyn proposed the idea of placing a double-wide mobile home on our property for Luna to stay in, allowing her to save her money to buy a house when Roberto returns. Marisol has been incessantly calling my phone, and judging by her messages, she doesn't seem pleased about Luna's move. Currently, my primary focus is on my family and mending my relationship with my daughter. Update. I waited for Luna to return from her honeymoon so I could share this post with her. Our therapist encouraged full transparency in handling this situation, and I wanted to ensure she had a say in sharing any further information since it concerns her as well. She read the post, but I shielded her from the hateful comments due to how emotional she became while reading it. Nonetheless, she was fine with me posting an update. However, a tragic event occurred with the passing of my grandmother, causing me to put it on hold. So, let's pick up where I left off. Jocelyn and I successfully arranged for a double-wide mobile home on our property and had everything prepared for Luna and Roberto. Many people were curious about why Jocelyn was initially adamant about making amends. Jocelyn wanted to prevent my lingering anger from affecting our family and encouraged me to find peace within myself for our family's well-being. I am truly thankful for that. As mentioned earlier, Marisol kept calling me persistently. The day Luna left New York, I talked to Marisol, and she was both crying and angry. She accused me of taking her child and grandchild away. I tried to explain my desire to rebuild my relationship with Luna, and she immediately started asking about rebuilding her relationship with me. I had to explain that I couldn't, leading to more tears and her hanging up on me. Luna and Roberto were pleased with the trailer, and Roberto immediately began the process of repaying me. I assured him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted, and I appreciated the gesture. A few days later, Luna and I attended our first therapy session, where I learned about the anxiety medication she was taking and her struggle with chronic panic attacks. I can reveal that Luna is sincerely remorseful and has endured years of verbal abuse from Marisol. Some of the revelations were shocking and almost unbelievable, but they were corroborated when I spoke to my former father-in-law. Marisol inflicted emotional and verbal harm upon her, and my cousin mentally scarred her. Regardless of my own feelings and actions, I acknowledged the pain I caused her too. 2 weeks after their arrival, Roberto received news of an earlier deployment, which necessitated moving their wedding date up. Initially, Luna wanted to wait for him to return, but Roberto insisted on getting married before he left. Jocelyn and I offered to assist with the wedding expenses, but Luna only requested that I walk her down the aisle and give her away. I understand that many people advise me to get a DNA test due to the absence of one from the court, given the circumstantial evidence provided. However, I can confidently say that there's no need for that. Luna has O-positive blood while I have AB-negative blood, Marisol is B-positive, and my cousin is O-positive. Despite all that has happened, Luna is undeniably my daughter. I only wish my judgment wasn't clouded by anger. Anyway, the wedding had to be intimate as it was held on my in-laws' ranch. The guest list included my former father-in-law, Roberto's mother, Marisol, and my grandmother. Unfortunately, only 2 RSVP'd. My grandmother couldn't attend due to her health, and Marisol was admitted to the hospital after a suicide attempt. Luna didn't take the news well, and I couldn't help but feel angry at Marisol for expecting Luna to return to New York to care for her. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I received the wonderful news that I would be a father again, and I was overjoyed. Roberto had his share of challenges while learning to break a horse, and I also started teaching him how to work on cars. I must say, I've grown quite fond of this young man. The day before the wedding, my former father-in-law arrived with Roberto's mother. She is a very kind person, and I commended her for raising a fine young man. My former father-in-law remained his stoic self, but we had a conversation. He expressed his disappointment about my departure, but also mentioned that he understood the circumstances. He just wished that his daughter would move on as well. On the day of the wedding, Jocelyn served as Luna's maid of honor, and I did my best to hold back tears as I walked her down the aisle, which proved quite challenging. Luna was equally emotional. During the reception, we played the same song from Luna's quinceañera for our father-daughter dance, and once again, she clung to me. For those wondering, the song is Cinderella by Stephen Curtis Chapman. As they enjoyed their honeymoon, life started returning to normal, and I was planning to write an update. However, a few days before their return, my grandmother passed away. This was particularly painful for me because she wasn't just my grandmother. She was also my mother. As I mentioned before, I never knew my parents. Both my mother and father, along with my cousin's parents, passed away in a car accident when I was just a few months old, and she raised us together. So, while preparing to travel to New York for the funeral, I struggled to keep my emotions in check and prepare to see my cousin. We went to New York as a family, and my grandmother was laid to rest in Cypress Hill Cemetery. During the funeral, with my wife, daughter, and son-in-law by my side, I didn't feel anger. I chose not to acknowledge my cousin during the funeral, and as we left, he repeatedly tried to speak to me, practically begging me to yell at him or hit him. Surprisingly, ignoring him seemed to hurt him even more. A few days before returning to Idaho, Luna and I paid a visit to Marisol at Bellevue. She was thrilled to see us, expressed sadness about missing the wedding, and everything seemed fine until the time came for us to leave. That's when things took a turn. Marisol began crying and told the orderly that she wanted to go home with her husband, pleading with me to take her home. She professed that I was the love of her life and begged me to please take her home. I couldn't hold back the tears as they took her away. Luna was equally emotional, and it took us some time to gather the strength to leave the visitors' lounge. My former father-in-law shared with us that Marisol had never been the same after the divorce. Although she continued to celebrate my birthday and our anniversary, he would argue with her to move forward. But she remained stuck. He mentioned that she isolated herself and was verbally offensive towards Luna for an extended period. Luna's pregnancy was the only thing that seemed to snap her out of this trance. He emphasized that the 13 months of kindness towards our daughter didn't erase the 4 years of neglect and hurt she had inflicted on her. He hoped the hospital could provide the help Marisol needed. Jocelyn informed me that I needed to forgive her so that she could eventually forgive herself. As I write this, things are currently okay. Jocelyn and I are closer than ever. Roberto departed for Saudi Arabia last week, and Luna is attempting to put on a strong front with him gone, although she's not doing it very convincingly. She's been leaning on me and Jocelyn for support. I initially wondered if this might bother Jocelyn, but she's been relishing her time with Luna and has been introducing her as her daughter while taking her around town. Luna appears to be genuinely pleased about it. I've forgiven Marisol, and I hope she can gather the strength to move forward. 1-year update. The past year has been quite eventful, marked by both joy and challenges. My family has grown, as Jocelyn and I welcomed another son, and she's eager to try for another one. We're also looking forward to becoming grandparents again, as Luna is 2 months pregnant. Additionally, my son-in-law has applied for officer training school, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for his acceptance. My daughter's journey to healing has seen its share of difficulties, especially in the early stages of our therapy sessions. She's been undergoing prolonged exposure therapy, and, thanks to your recommendation, it's been a real blessing. While it initially intensified her panic attacks, this therapy has proven invaluable in her recovery. Through our therapy, we've both taken responsibility for our actions and mistakes, and it's been a crucial step toward mending our relationship. My in-laws have been keeping Luna busy working on the ranch. Her tasks involve feeding horses, distributing hay, and learning about herding bison from my mother-in-law. It's heartwarming to see her light up while riding a horse, and the mother-daughter dynamic between Luna and Jocelyn is simply adorable. I'm grateful to have married such an amazing woman who has shown remarkable strength and resilience. Our journey began when I helped fix her father's tractors, which were damaged by her abusive ex. Over time, we got to know each other, and our connection deepened. In the first week of May, my ex-father-in-law passed away, and I feared Luna might relapse, but she stayed strong, with Roberto's unwavering support. Roberto has had a profound positive impact on Luna's life, and I can never fully repay the debt of gratitude I owe him. We all traveled to New York for his viewing, which was a true celebration of his life, in keeping with his Boricua spirit. The event featured a live salsa band, an open bar, and a buffet with a variety of his favorite Puerto Rican dishes, including pateles, pernil, and sancocho. A banner reading, "Do not mourn me, celebrate me," adorned his casket, which was draped with the Puerto Rican flag. He was dressed in his iconic vanilla ice cream suit, and the atmosphere was joyful throughout. Marisol was also present, although she seemed disconnected, lost in her thoughts. It was as if her mind switched off, only to come back to life when Luna or I sat beside her. She would then discuss preparations for the quinceañera, but eventually she'd return to her distant state. During the second day of the viewing, her therapist shared an observation. It appeared that Marisol's mind was stuck in a moment of her life when she was happiest. The therapist believed that my cousin may have aped Marisol, and her mind had shielded her from the trauma, convincing her it was merely a moment of weakness. That messed me up, and I confided in Jocelyn about what the therapist had revealed. She was taken aback by the revelation and insisted that we should inform Luna, but I was hesitant. Luna had made significant progress in her healing journey, and I didn't want her to regress. Instead, we decided to share this with Roberto first, who initially wanted to confront my cousin, but I managed to talk him down. Then, as a family, we sat down and had a difficult conversation with Luna. It was an emotionally turbulent night. 2 days later, at the burial, we experienced an incident. My cousin, uninvited and inebriated, showed up and caused a scene. I had an intense urge to confront him, but instead, I demanded that he leave. Roberto had to physically restrain me, and my cousin started yelling, claiming he was always superior to me and took credit for my self-improvement, asserting that it was due to him and his daughter. Anger welled up in me, and I nearly lunged at my cousin, but Luna unexpectedly punched him in the mouth and began attacking him. She was furious and screaming and crying. I momentarily hesitated, and Roberto managed to pull her away. As my cousin was getting up, Jocelyn punched him and knocked him unconscious, injuring her index finger in the process. Before returning home, we held a family meeting and unanimously decided to transfer Marisol to a mental health facility near us, as she has no one else to turn to. We're continuing our therapy sessions, and with this new revelation, my daughter is struggling to come to terms with the possibility that she might be a product of rape. Before this revelation, I had been planning to legally adopt her since she was no longer my daughter on paper. But now, I feel like the timing might not be right. Update. Greetings, everyone. It's been some time, and I want to express my gratitude to all of you. My family continues to grow. I now have 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl, and I have 2 sons and another daughter on the way. For a while, I grappled with guilt and depression after learning about the events from Marisol's hypnotherapy session. According to her account, she initially said no twice before freezing up for over a minute, during which she begged him to stop. My cousin then finished and left her. She told the therapist that she repeated over and over, it was a mistake, convincing herself that it was just that, a mistake. This revelation had a profound impact on me, casting a cloud of depression over my life. I began blaming myself, my cousin, and played endless scenarios in my mind, fixating on what I could have done differently. It weighed heavily on me, and I even started to believe my cousin's words, that I had ruined her. I struggled to recollect every family interaction, searching for signs or hints that something was amiss. I discovered that when my cousin was present, Luna never remained in the same room with him or was alone with him. I had never noticed it before, but now, everything is painfully clear. Hindsight can be incredibly harsh. In the following months, Luna and I attended family therapy sessions with Marisol. Like many of you, the therapist also inquired about what I would have done had Marisol confessed the truth upon my release. Honestly, I would have taken action against my cousin. If she had revealed it years later, I would have confronted him with extreme force. Finally, I was asked how I would have reacted if she had disclosed the truth during Luna's quinceañera. I admitted that initially I might not have believed her, but I would have persisted in seeking the truth through questioning and investigation. Given my emotional state at that time, I would have likely injured my cousin, but I wouldn't have fled town. I believe this would have led to significantly different outcomes. Over time, Marisol became more consolable. She tearfully apologized to both of us. She confessed that since she couldn't give me another child, She channeled her energy into becoming the best wife and partner she could be. When I left, she admitted that whenever she looked at our daughter, all she saw was my cousin. I asked her why she allowed my cousin to continue visiting our home. She explained that in a way, she saw him as my brother. I had always been proud of him, particularly when he became a pastor. I held him in high regard, sought his advice, and in her mind, he represented a regrettable mistake that wouldn't disappear. So, she made every effort to avoid him at all costs. Luna experienced a resurgence of panic attacks, which were more intense, but she is now coping well. I officially adopted her as my daughter last month as a birthday gift. Her overwhelming joy and tears were priceless. I heard that my cousin moved to Puerto Rico after losing his job. The bank had to terminate him due to the numerous disturbances caused by people coming into the bank. We placed a new trailer next to Luna's for Marisol. She was released in mid-March, and initially, things were quite awkward. I used to watch TV shows with similar scenarios, having your ex-wife and current wife in close proximity. On TV, they often portray it as friendly, but that's TV. Jocelyn maintained a very civil demeanor but established clear boundaries for Marisol to follow. However, Marisol expressed her desire not to stay on our property. She preferred to live nearby, desiring to be a mother and grandmother. She hoped for a friendly but distant friendship between us, and I could respect her wishes. Jocelyn and Marisol had a few disagreements, mostly about child rearing and cooking habits. My in-laws, like me, felt uneasy about the entire situation. It doesn't help that my brother-in-law has developed a crush on Marisol, to the point that Jocelyn smacked him on the back of his head in an attempt to knock some sense into him. Unfortunately, it didn't work. He's 2 years older than me, a widower for 2 years with 3 little girls. He's a really nice guy, a skilled wrangler, and he's been hanging around my property more than I'd prefer, just to talk to Marisol. I don't mind, but Jocelyn does. She's very protective of her big brother, and she's concerned that if they do get together, she won't know if it's genuine. I can understand her perspective. There was an incident on Luna's birthday, shortly after giving her the adoption papers. I danced with Luna, then with Jocelyn, and when Marisol tried to dance with me after dancing with Roberto and Jocelyn's brother, I politely declined. However, this triggered Jocelyn's jealousy, and she became a bit territorial. On Easter, while we were watching the kids hunt for eggs, I overheard Marisol telling Jocelyn that she envied her for being able to give me children. Jocelyn reassured her that Luna is my daughter, despite the circumstances, and she should always remember that. Marisol cried, and it was the first time I saw them getting along. This is where I stand at the moment. Hopefully everything will balance out. Update. Healing requires time, patience, and understanding. It's also immensely helpful to have a support system. My wife is my rock. Watching her with my daughter, the way she's there for her, and lately, the way she's supporting my ex-wife is truly amazing. Taking her to the Survivor group meeting every week reminds me of how blessed I am. I had a heartfelt conversation with her, expressing my gratitude for everything she's done. I let her know how fortunate I feel to be with her, and she responded with a warm smile before kissing me. She told me that I saved her too, recounting her past with an abusive ex and how trapped she felt. She felt that being there for me and my family was the least she could do. We sat together, watching TV while holding each other, and that's when I received an instant message from my cousin. I promptly blocked him. A week later, I received a letter from him, which I burned. Another week passed, and my wife informed me that her brother is quite interested in asking her out. Personally, I don't mind, but I told her that Marisol is an adult who's healing from significant trauma. If he understands that and is willing to be patient, I have no issues. A day later, I received yet another letter from my cousin, and once again, I burned it. Normally, I'd complain about how he found me, but I have a very unique name, named after my great-grandfather, and my last name is uncommon. So, locating me through a simple Google search wasn't too difficult. In mid-June, we were enjoying a bonfire. I smiled as I saw my daughter and son-in-law slow dancing without music. My wife had her head resting on my chest, and I noticed my brother-in-law and Marisol kissing, which brought a smile to my face. A few days later, my cousin attempted to reach out to Luna on Facebook, resulting in a panic attack for her. Roberto blocked him, and later that day, while we were at the supermarket, my wife's ex returned to town and had the audacity to try talking to her. I could see the fear in her eyes, and I reacted instinctively. It was a single punch, but I made sure it spoke volumes. My wife, my rock, my support, was trembling with fear. Seeing her so shaken made me want to confront him, but the sheriff intervened and told him to leave before checking on Jocelyn. In all the years we've been together, I've never seen her so terrified. While the sheriff was speaking to us, I watched her ex walk past the window, wearing a sinister grin. The sheriff noticed and grabbed my arm, instructing me to take Jocelyn home. During the drive, she was silent, and when we arrived home, all she wanted was for me to hold her and never let go. Luna was extremely concerned, and Jocelyn pulled her into the embrace. None of us had ever witnessed her like this, and all I wanted to do was protect her. Later that day, her brother showed up and informed us that he and the sheriff had paid her ex a visit and told him to leave. Unfortunately, that didn't deter him. The man showed up at my shop the next day, threatening to sue me for assault. I simply smiled at him and informed him that in the 10 minutes he spent running his mouth, I came up with half a dozen ways to make him disappear. That silenced him, but for the following week and a half, he continued to test me, to test us. Throughout that time, Jocelyn was persistently fearful, concerned he might do something to her or to me. Her brother, a game warden, warned him to stay away, and he reported this to his supervisor. Whenever I felt compelled to confront him, Jocelyn pleaded with me not to. However, she's my wife, and I needed to protect her. I assured her that I wouldn't approach him. Her father later shared everything about that man, revealing the horrible things he did to her. I expressed my surprise that he hadn't dealt with him sooner, and he replied that he had been seriously contemplating it, but his kneecaps were broken, and he left town. He was grinning broadly at me, and I couldn't help but smile back. On the 29th, we were preparing for the upcoming Western Idaho Fair when I received another letter from my cousin. This time I left it on my desk. Marisol approached me inquiring if it was okay for her to pursue a relationship with Jocelyn's brother, and I told her it was fine, as long as she felt ready. She shrugged, mentioning that she wasn't quite sure what she wanted, but she liked him and had been thinking about him and his kids a lot. I expressed my desire for her to find happiness, and she started to cry, but they were tears of joy, and I was genuinely happy for her. My phone rang, and it was the sheriff informing me that Jocelyn's ex and another man were in the hospital with severe facial injuries. I braced myself for potential accusations, but then he revealed that he had my son-in-law in custody, and there were numerous witnesses supporting Roberto's defense. I didn't want to discuss this over the phone, so I hurried to his office. When I arrived, I saw Luna sitting by the front desk with a nasty bruise on her left cheek. The sheriff explained that, according to witnesses, Jocelyn's ex intentionally bumped into Roberto as he and Luna left the coffee shop. An argument ensued, and Roberto attempted to defuse the situation. Another man appeared and pushed Roberto, prompting Luna to push the man back, and Jocelyn's ex slapped Luna, leading to Roberto injuring the two men and landing them in the hospital. The sheriff wasn't pressing charges, but he had to notify Roberto's commanding officer. After being released, Roberto had to immediately embark on his 13-hour drive to Yuma. Luna was blaming herself for pushing Jocelyn's ex, while Jocelyn was trying to support her but felt responsible for the entire situation. Surprisingly, Marisol was there for both of them. The icing on the cake came the other day when a pregnant woman, 6 months along, came to my shop. She asked for my name and then revealed that she was my cousin's fiancée, which caught me completely off guard. My cousin has leukemia and had been attempting to reach out to me, Luna, and Marisol to seek reconciliation. I told her to leave, but she refused, wanting Luna and me to get tested to see if we're a match for bone marrow donation. She broke into tears, expressing her fear of raising a child without a father. I assured her that it would be in her child's best interest. She slapped me, stating that my cousin had been entirely honest with her, acknowledging all his wrongdoings, but she still wanted him to be part of their child's life, and begged me to get tested. I had a strong feeling I'd turn out to be a match, considering my luck. When I returned to my office, I opened my cousin's letter, expecting to read a plea for mercy and a request for me to save his life. Instead, I received a letter in which he confessed to all of his wrongdoings. He talked about how, while growing up, he looked up to me and loved me. However, when I began rebelling and joined the Latin Kings, he started hating me for the pain I caused our grandmother. Despite my efforts to support him and encourage him to stay in school, he saw me as a hypocrite because I never followed my own advice. Taking Marisol away was the final straw for him. He didn't anticipate me genuinely trying to turn my life around. When I got stabbed and arrested, he saw it as divine intervention and admitted that despite her telling him no, he felt compelled to have her. He wrote in the letter that because of him, the woman he loved was shattered. He believed he ruined his daughter and destroyed the only man who loved him unconditionally. He also mentioned that if his fiancée ever comes to see me, she might tell me he's sick. This is true. He is ill, but he doesn't want me or Luna to get tested. This is the path he has chosen, and he must accept the consequences. He ended the letter by profusely apologizing to all of us. I sought guidance from my pastor soon after, pouring out everything, and he compared my situation to that of Job. It's ironic because, among all the biblical stories, I despised the book of Job. My pastor told me that everyone faces struggles like Job, some more than others, but it teaches us to provide comfort to those who are suffering and how we become better individuals through adversity. This morning, I visited the hospital, and the benefit of a small town is that everyone knows everyone else's business. Without asking, the nurse directed me to Jocelyn's ex's hospital room, where I sat, waiting for him to wake up. He was shocked to see me. I had a conversation with him, and even though his jaw was wired shut, he fully grasped the kind of person I would become if he ever threatened my family again. I had forgotten how easily I could turn into someone so dark. At this moment, I find myself in the cancer ward, typing this lengthy rant on my phone, pondering whether to get myself tested to see if I am a match. I'm wondering why we always have to undergo tests and endure constant challenges. Why are there people who want to ruin everything? Edit. I had myself tested and discovered 2 days ago that I am a match. I am only considering helping him. I will never forgive him, and I will personally hold a grudge against him until my last breath. Nevertheless, I can't stop thinking about his pregnant fiancée who came from Puerto Rico and begged me to assist him. I discussed this issue with my family. Luna and Marisol wanted him to suffer a painful death, but they said the decision was mine to make. Jocelyn told me that she couldn't comprehend my current mindset, but she would support whatever choice I make.